Greetings and salutations, everybody. My name is Scott Allison, and this is Beyond 280. Welcome back. Welcome back to myself. I have been on a bit of a hiatus. Sadly, a bit of a hiatus. Some of it of my own choosing. Some of it because of, well, really what it comes down to is, my family always takes precedence. It takes precedence over just about everything, including work. And a lot of things have been happening this summer. My middle son was learning to drive. My my youngest son had some summer activities prior to going back to school this year. And I've been driving people everywhere. My work has really been, my corporate overlords, as I like to say, has been really overwhelming. And a little something closer to home, something that kind of near and dear to my heart, the Creators Guild that I've been a part of for the better part of since the beginning of the year, has kind of dissipated and fallen apart a little bit. It's being reborn anew in a different form, but that, that's actually a bad excuse. I think I use the guild quite a lot as a crutch, to try to get viewers in. I've made some great friends there for sure. Some of them who I thought were friends and have blocked me since, unfortunately. I'm not really sure why I didn't do anything. So, but whatever. It is what it is. And anyway, so I'm probably going to, probably going to start doing this a lot more often again. The fourth reason. Let me talk about the fourth reason. So the biggest reason why I stopped and went on a hiatus because I wasn't liking what I was doing. I like the content. I love getting on Twitter, and I live for the politics. I live for the opinions and the even the down in the mud stuff. I live for that stuff. I think it's a lot of fun. But I wasn't feeling the content that I was creating specifically. If you have been following me at all, then you know that I started out, I wanted to be an interview show. I was going to interview Twitter users, try to get behind the scenes, try to get into their humanity and show everybody, hey, these are human beings. And then I thought, I need to really color this with my opinion. So I kind of separated this thing called A Little to the Right, where I basically, gave my own opinion, my worldview, colored view, if you will, of the trends and things that were going on Twitter. But I tried to keep those two things separate. And at the end of the day, I wasn't happy with that either. And so I wasn't happy with the interviewing thing. I wasn't happy with, keeping my big mouth shut, basically. And so I just became kind of not really content with what I was doing. And then I've been wanting to get back into it, and I've been thinking about, like, what can I get into? Maybe I get into tech. Maybe I should start doing stuff on Microsoft Azure, doing some videos around that, because I know my way around Azure pretty well, specifically Azure Monitor. This is not a plug for Microsoft, but I was throwing around all these ideas. Like, I really want to get back into content creation, but I kept coming back to the Beyond 280 because I realized that I made a mistake from the very beginning. I didn't want to color the content with my worldview. That was stupid. I need to be who I am. I need to be, who I've, become over the years, instead of, kind of, masking it and trying to be diplomatic and all that. You know what? The gloves are coming off. And part of the inspiration for that was Joe Biden. As Alex McDonald from the Politics show likes to call him, former Vice President Joe Biden has really screwed the pooch. And in more ways than one, the most recent example, and probably the worst example, there's no probably about it, it is the worst example, is with Joe Biden and how he handled the withdrawal of our troops from Afghanistan, of American lives from Afghanistan. It boggles the imagination. It boggles your brain to think that this could have gone down the way it did. We'll get into all that, but it's shocking to me how it's gone down. I really didn't think we'd see another Jimmy Carter moment in my lifetime, and we have. Now we have. In fact, it's worse than what Jimmy Carter did with Iran. Okay, so all of that to be said, I'm back. I'm doing content again. My show is still going to be Twitter focused. I'm still going to comment on today's trends and topics and that sort of thing. And I'm going to allow myself finally to really just kind of let loose and give you my worldview on all of this. And I'm going to try to do it several nights a week. I haven't figured out how that's going to work just yet, but I figured this is a good time slot because we're towards the end of the day. It's 10 o'clock on the East Coast and 7 o'clock on the West Coast, but it's still kind of towards the end of the day, because during the day things are really fluid. A lot of people are on Twitter. But at the end of the day, I can really kind of summarize some things. I can really go back and look at the day's events and talk about them. So that's what I'm going to do for you today. This is going to be the format. I'm gonna find some really interesting things, and we're going to talk about it. It may be politics, it may be entertainment, it may be music, maybe sports, whatever tickles my fancy that day. And and I will say, let me just put this out there ahead of time. I am not affiliated with TWITCHY.com or Salem Media, but I read Twitchy.com quite extensively, and got a lot of my inspiration for this show in the first place from Twitchy. And I'm going to be using Twitchy tonight, specifically to show you kind of how I find some of these topics and trends. I don't just use the Twitter app or TweetDeck or any of that. I actually go and look at Twitchy. Twitchy is kind of an aggregator / opinion blog, if you will, of the current goings on Twitter, specifically some of the idiotic tweets that people put out, or some of the brain dead things that people put out, or maybe something remarkable that people post on Twitter. And I dig it. Granted, it is slanted. It is very slanted to the right. I'm a little to the right as it is. Hey, we got Kevin here, Mr. KMR. How the hell are you? Long time no chat no talk to. So everybody say hi to Kevin. Everybody being Grim. Anyway, glad that you're here. Let's get the ball rolling. Let's go. Oh, one other thing. I still want to bring other people on. I'm going to start bringing people on a regular basis as a panel. I'd like to have people come on and we'll discuss some topics that we're seeing on Twitter and just have a nice panel discussion about it. No interviews, no reason to do all that. So let's get to it, shall we? So I'm not associated in any shape or form with Twitchy. So I'm going to be showing their webpage. And feel free to go and check out Twitchy on your own time. I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. Some of the writers are really funny, and they point out a lot of things that you may miss if you just kind of skim the surface on Twitter. So it's really good stuff, and we'll look at a few things here in a minute. One other thing, you're going to see me fumbling around a lot. Some of my tech is broken, so I'm actually manually with my mouse clicking on stuff. That's ridiculous. That's totally ridiculous. I feel like a caveman. So anyhow, so here I am. I'm going to click on my next scene. Ooh. Okay. So this is Twitchy. So if you've never been to Twitchy, again, it is basically an aggregator, a Twitter aggregator, and they write blog articles basically, or blog posts about specific trends or specific posts or what have you, and it runs a gamut, news, politics, media, entertainment, you name it. It runs a gamut. It's mostly politics, though. Mostly, in fact, you'll see here on the front page, you'll see doctor inspired by Texas horrific abortion law suggests young women get unreliable birth control. So apparently Donald Trump Save America, I guess that's his PAC or his post-presidency group, whatever, releases a video blasting President Biden in Afghanistan. I'm really scared by this, by the way. Just so you know, for those of you who don't know, I hate Donald Trump. I don't like him. I think he's an a-hole. He was not really good for the country. I will, 1,000% stand behind the things that he was good at, which, a couple policy things here and there, okay. But I will also criticize him without hesitation, and I have. Unfortunately, we got Biden in the process, but that's a different story. But he's totally running in 2024. You can see from his little super PAC stuff here. Apparently, white supremacists are cheering on the Taliban takeover Afghanistan. I'm not going to dig into that, but that may be a topic for a future show. So this is kind of what I do. I'll come in here into Twitchy and I'll dig into some of these. And what's great, so like according to the FAA, President Biden, the First Lady, will spend the weekend in Delaware. And so there's the tweet, and then people will start writing about the different writers on Twitchy start writing about these individual tweets, and they basically aggregate some of the replies, some of the more interesting replies. That's the way this works. So I've got 4 topics tonight. Well, I really have 3 topics. The big one is Afghanistan, but we're not going to start there. Where are we going to start today? So Chris Cuomo, as you know, he's a CNN anchor, one of the many, asking for thoughts on this pro-abortion meme from Occupy Democrats that he's tweeting. So, if you don't know, people love to drag Chris Cuomo. I don't blame them. He's kind of a hypocrite and an a-hole, and so I don't blame him when people drag him. So here's the meme, and here's what he tweeted. He tweeted thoughts on this meme. So if you don't know who the Occupy Democrats are, they're kind of they do a lot of satire and they make poke fun on a lot of stuff. But anyways, so this one is supposed to be serious, I guess. So has to do with the new law that came into effect in Texas, where I live, where you can no longer, you can still have an abortion after 6 weeks, but you can be sued now if you do it. So it's not really a ban on abortion after 6 weeks, but it kind of is de facto. And I'm not going to go into the details of it. You can go read it yourself. I'm pro-life, so I'm obviously all for it, but we're not going to go down this road. What we are going to go down this road is this meme that Chris Cuomo would like your thoughts on. If a fetus is a person at 6 weeks pregnant, is that when the child support starts? Okay, I'm going to stop right there. That's pretty dumb. So, anyway, is that also when you can't deport the mother because she's carrying a U.S. citizen? Huh? Can I insure a 6-week fetus and collect if I miscarry? What? Just figuring if we're going there, we should go all in. So, I have thoughts on this. Chris Cuomo, you wanted thoughts. If a fetus is a person at 6 weeks pregnant, is that when child support start? No. Because you're not, you may be spending a little bit, especially if you're a Planned Parenthood advocate, you should be getting free health care from Planned Parenthood, right? If you're pregnant, right? And that what they're known for is prenatal care. Oh, they're not really known for that? Oh, that's interesting. Anyways, is that also when you can't deport the mother because she's carrying a U.S. citizen? Okay, it's kind of a weird argument. And can I assure a 6-week fetus and collect if I miscarry? You know what? I am 1,000% okay with all of these things if you don't abort your child. If you don't murder the baby in your womb. We can come to an agreement on all these things. Totally cool with me. And in fact, that's what the Twitchy article is pointing out. Let's look at some of the responses, shall we? Mr. Ben Shapiro, we all know who Ben Shapiro is. He's that self-loathing Jewish, racist, white supremacist, far right-winger. No, he's none of those things. He's Jewish, but he's none of those things. Anyway, if I say yes to all the above, will you then be willing to grant the humanity of the child? Yes. Absolutely. Or is it just a cheap parlor game in which you don't actually mean anything you say? That is the reality. And let me just point out, most pundits are not willing to put their money where their mouth is. That's just a reality. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle they're on. Most people are not willing to put their money where their mouth is. Oh, also excellent journalism. Yeah, we got Mr. Scott Sealock. Yeah, he'll accept that deal. This guy, Robert Overturf, would 100% agree to those conditions. Yeah, other people saying, yep, I agree to these stipulations. We should be simply be direct. Yes to all the above. I hope others won't play cheap parlor games here, but right is right. My answer isn't dependent on how others will respond. Yes to all the above. Yep, yes. Everybody is agreeing with this. What a amazing backfire. And this is why I love Twitchy, because they point this sort of stuff out. They point out the ridiculousness of a particular tweet and say, look, it's backfiring on you. Look at all these responses. So, yeah, I'm 100%, I would go for all of these things if you don't murder the child in the first place. Great. So, on to Afghanistan. So, as you know, and by the way, I'm not or our side being to the right, not middle, not left, but right of center, all agree that we needed to get out of Afghanistan, and we needed to do it right. Biden said, screw all that, we're just going to yank everybody, and we're going to leave a bunch of stuff behind, and we're going to close down airports. Oh, now what are we going to do? This was one of the most major blunders I've ever seen any politician pull off, let alone a sitting president. This is worse than anything Trump ever did. And it really is. And I can't stand the man. But even Trump couldn't fuck up this bad, or didn't fuck up this bad. So all this stuff has been going on. And turns out today, or maybe this morning, a transcript was leaked of a phone call between the former Vice President Joe Biden. Oh, I'm sorry, he's the president now. I keep forgetting that. But he basically had a transcript phone call and had a phone call with former Afghan President Ghani. And basically, and here's just a little bit of tidbit about this. In much of the call, Biden focused on what he called the Afghan government's perception problem. I need not tell you the perception around the world in parts of Afghanistan, I believe, is that things are not going well in terms of the fight against the Taliban. And there is a need, whether it's true or not, there is a need to project a different picture. So, as Doug writes so well here, it sure sounds like Biden was asking Ghani to lie his ass off. Huh. Interesting. So there was an exchange today at the press briefing with Jen Psaki, and it's funny because she was really kind of against this whole, trying to influence foreign leaders things in phone calls before, but this is how she feels about it now. If I can get this to play.
Ghani, I just want to put a pin in that report. Was the president in any way pushing a false narrative in that call with the Afghan president?
I think it's pretty clear. Again, I'm not going to go into details of a private conversation, but what we saw over the course of the last few months is a collapse in leadership. And that was happening even before Ghani left the country. What the president has conveyed repeatedly, privately, and publicly is you need to stand up and lead your country. And that's something he said at a press conference in July in public forum.
So all of a sudden, when a sitting president talks to a foreign leader, all of a sudden it's a private conversation. I remember a private conversation between the president of the Ukraine and Donald Trump, and all of a sudden that was an impeachable thing. I mean, basically, Biden in the transcript is telling the then Afghan president, who had to flee the country, by the way, because the Taliban were going to murder him. But he had to flee the country. But before all that happened, he basically said, yeah, Mr. President Ghani, or whatever the hell your name is, Corn Pop, do you think you can go ahead and just tell everybody, hey, Afghanistan's great, nothing to see here, everything's wonderful here. Could you go ahead and do that for me? Great, that'd be great. I'm the president of the United States, so you got to kind of do what I say, because I'm the president of the United States. At least that's what Kamala Harris says. I'm sorry, Kamala Harris. Ooh, somebody's going to yell at me for that. So now all of a sudden, Psaki, who was very much vocal, and I didn't get a chance to pull it all up, but she was very much vocal against what President Trump did with the Ukrainian president. Yeah, I'm seeing an interesting pattern here with Psaki, or Psaki. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I've heard it pronounced multiple ways. But it's funny because she's talking one way when she was against some of the things she was talking about before. So, yeah, this is our government, people. This is the way that our government operates. They speak out of both sides of their mouths depending on the political winds. And in this case, the political winds say, hey, there's a Democrat in office, so even if the previous guy did it, it's totally okay for this guy to do it now. That's the way things work. This is the way of the world. And we just need to embrace the suck. So, staying with Afghanistan, as you know, and there are a lot of theories about this, but as you know, the United States abandoned a ton of aircraft and armored vehicles and weapons and ammunition, all sorts of equipment. Just abandoned it. Didn't destroy it, didn't dismantle it, didn't take it with them, just left it. And I'll share this theory. One of the prevailing theories is that it was a payoff to the Taliban to allow the United States to get out of the country before they started killing anybody. I'm inclined to believe that. I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I kind of loathe conspiracy theories in general. But this one kind of makes sense because Biden had a promise to keep, and he was going to keep it no matter what. It didn't matter how he did things. He was going to keep it, the promise. If it meant that 13 Marines died in the evacuation efforts from a terrorist attack, then that's what it meant. But I really think there may be something to the theory that Biden's brokered a deal, or at least the State Department under Biden's guidance did, and said, hey, we're going to leave you all this equipment. Let our people go. Look how well that worked out. So, as Twitchy reports here, and this is based on a New York Post article, but the Taliban had a victory parade with U.S. vehicles, aircraft, and weapons, courtesy of the Biden administration. And I've got a dog barking. So one moment, please, while I take care of this dog. Well, that was interesting. had a dog interrupt my show. That usually my dogs never do that, so not tonight. So going back to where was I? So I was about to start talking about this Twitchy article. Basically, you might remember our story about the Washington Post fact checker Glenn Kessler tweeting the conclusion that No, the Taliban did not seize $83 billion in U.S. weapons, as Trump claimed. Clearly, the intent was to leave the impression that the actual amount of U.S. military property that was abandoned in Afghanistan, because make no mistake, it was worth substantially less than $83 billion. However, according to the Washington Post, Biden only left $65 billion in aircraft, weapons, vehicles, and equipment in Afghanistan. In other words, still a lot. Yeah. Whatever the actual amount, the Taliban are in possession of enough vehicles, aircraft, and equipment to have a parade. And this is the parade that they're talking about. Now, I'm just leaving this image up here just for a moment, just to let this sink in, and to remind people what was at stake here. These people are riding around in U.S. equipment. They're now going to be able to take down anybody they want. Anybody in their country, including the women that can no longer go to school or work, that must wear burqas, including the people that helped the United States when the Taliban were no longer in power. Don't forget about our friends in the LGBTQ plus community that they are now going to round up and murder in the streets. Yeah, so, yeah, this is great. We are going to be responsible for the deaths of who knows how many Afghans and other people that are still stuck in that shithole of a country. This is disgusting. This should discuss everybody. I don't care your political persuasion. This should discuss everybody. And discuss me for sure. And so I have a cousin who I have known. I mean, I was like 15 when he was born, and he's grown up to be an amazing person. He's got 2 sons, a wife, but he served in the Marines. He served. He did service in Iraq, and he lost quite a few, buddies of his, service people that served with him. And I reached out to him this past week because I know how near and dear this is to his heart. I said, "Hey, how are you feeling about our commander-in-chief this week? I've never seen so many pissed off military people in my life." And he replied, "There aren't words for it. All I know is that I don't trust any of our elected officials anymore. I don't care about whatever dumb shit legislation they are trying to pass. They lost me, and they can all rot in hell. This one went too far, and it's very personal." And I replied to him. I said, "You know what? You're right. You have every right, and then some, to feel the way you do. That this has been an inexcusable chain of events and a knife in the back to you and your brothers who served or are serving. I am so disgusted." And he responded, and this kind of got me. "It's a knife in the back to everyone. Despite some Americans that are too dumb to realize it, there's no coming back from this one. I can handle honest mistakes, but this shit was deliberate, and there's definitely something bigger going on. Someone is gaining from this." Then he goes on to say, "My unit was one of the last Marine units to leave Iraq. Drawdown was already taking place, and I got to witness it. It was done correctly for the most part. Vastly different from this drawdown, quote unquote. Not to mention all the serialized gear left behind. Absolutely deliberate." This was a man who served in a country much like Afghanistan, where it was war torn, and he was a part of an actual drawdown that was successful. It was planned and was done properly, and we didn't leave behind people, and we didn't leave behind equipment. And to see the pain in his words and the anger in his words, it just got me to my core. I was really upset after this. And I can't imagine how people who served in Afghanistan feel right now. I can't imagine. And then on top of all that, I can't imagine the people that are currently left behind there. The people that are going to now suffer as a result of whatever deal Biden has put together for this withdrawal. The countless women that are going to suffer. The little girls that are being forced into marriages. The people that are going to be murdered and hung, and tortured simply because of who they love. This is all on Biden. And I haven't even gone into the terrorist attack and the bodies coming home, and Biden just kind of, oh, it's just another ceremony. This man needs to step down. He needs to step down. He can't. People are yelling about impeachment and stuff. There's no such thing. Impeachment's never going to happen. Because first of all, you got to have proof of some sort of crime, and there's no crime necessarily except a crime against humanity, crime against the United States. Not a broken law though. But he needs to step down. And I will fight to the death to make sure that Kamala does not become the dictator that she wants to be in the process. So I know that got a little dark, a little sad, but this is a reality that we're living in with this president, and why this man is so clueless. He's so clueless. You know he's clueless because he's spent the last 50 years in government. Of course he's clueless. He has no idea what's going on in the real world. Not to mention the fact that he probably has dementia. Advanced stage dementia, I might add. There's not a lot to say, or there's not a lot you can say or point to say that he doesn't have dementia or he's not unwell. The man is clearly unwell. He should step down. And that's what I got to say about that one. So I'm gonna kind of end on a lighter note tonight, and this show's not as long as I would like it to be, but that's okay. I've got other things I need to take care of tonight. But this is my first foray after 2 months away, so I'm excited that I got to do this. I'm glad that I've got some cool people here. Hi, Tom. Tom Nasser says Biden, the most corrupt, dirty old man to be an acting president. One of the most, yes. Yes, I will agree to that. I would say most of them are corrupt and dirty old men. Some older than others. Biden is very old. There's no doubt about it. So I'm going to leave you on a kind of a funny note. I forgot. I don't have buttons to press because I have broken tech. So I've got to come over here and I've got to click. I clicked on something. So if you don't know what the Bulwark is, it's supposed to be a conservative media outlet. It's really not. It's not conservative. There's very little about it that's conservative. In fact, I think they were the ones that had the tagline "Conserving Conservatism." So anyway, they consistently get dragged on social media by actual conservatives, and so it's always funny to see when they kind of shoot themselves in the foot with a dumb article. So the Bulwark, Jim Swift, is just so disappointed and disgusted about what happened to the Babylon Bee. So if you don't know what the Babylon Bee is, the Babylon Bee, I think initially was supposed to be more of a Christian-based satire site, kind of like a Christian version of The Onion. Over the years, they've become more of a kind of a right-wing satire. They still throw in some churchy stuff every now and then, and it's funny. Some things are just like, okay, that's a little over the top, but generally it's pretty funny. I share articles all the time on Twitter from the Babylon Bee because, why, gosh darn it, they're funny. So, in fact, the the watch looking incident when the president was supposed to be there somberly awaiting the dead bodies of the Marines that he was responsible for. When he was doing that, the Babylon Bee wrote an article and said, Joe Biden looks to make sure his hands aren't covered in blood. So a little bit of satire, a little bit of biting satire in that case. Yeah, so the Bulwark, Jim Swift is one of the people that write for the Bulwark. It's just so disappointed and disgusted about what happened to the Babylon Bee. It's a hard knock life at the Bulwark. I love this. Sarah D. wrote this. If it weren't bad enough that their great white hope, Joe Biden, has done more damage in 8 months than even the most pessimistic among us could have predicted. I'm one of those, by the way. There's also the Babylon Bee to contend with. Here's Jim Swift with troubling news. What happened to the Babylon Bee? So let's go look at this article real quick and just kind of skim through it. The Onion for evangelicals is now into anti-vax lib-owning. Oh boy. There's something wrong with the Babylon Bee. What happened? So until a few years ago, the Babylon Bee was a niche humor site. The Onion for conservative Protestants. The Bee was founded 7 months before Donald Trump took office and became popular mostly because of the jokes were very funny. But also, if we can be honest, a little bit for purposes of lib-owning. Yeah, owning the libs. Yeah, that's exactly what it was all about. The Bee was often labeled as fake news by mainstream fact-checking sites, and this series of boners, the Bee is literally and intentionally fake news, that is its whole reason for existing, made the Bee's existence a convenient cudgel for people who are invested in undermining the very idea of fact-checking. So I love this paragraph because it does really kind of talk about the Bee's journey. So very often, especially towards the end of Donald Trump's presidency, there were mainstream media outlets attacking the Babylon Bee for putting out misinformation. It's a satire site. It's clear as day it's a satire site. They're not putting out misinformation. They're putting out satire. That's like telling, Eddie Murphy that story you told about Goonie Goo Goo is a lie. Well, no shit. Satire is misinformation now. But the Bee has been changing. Bum, bum, bum. Here's the meat. The site was founded by Adam Ford, but in late 2018, he sold the site to a Christian entrepreneur named Seth Dillon. At the time of the sale, Ford said, Seth, new owner, is a successful businessman who uses his resources for kingdom purposes. The Bee is in good hands. Well, it didn't happen overnight, but the site that used to run spoofs of churches with fog machines has gradually morphed into MAGA entertainment node. What's a MAGA entertainment node? I don't really know. The site's menu used to have categories about news, Christian living, celebrities, politics, and church. Now it's news, trending, video, podcast, store, and newsletter. Okay, so is that supposed to be shocking? What sort of lifestyle brand is the new Bee? This kind. I identify as vaccinated t-shirt for $27. I think that is a crime. I wouldn't buy a t-shirt like that for $27. $20 maybe. $27? And that's the extra small. Why must they charge for the XXX? Because nothing shows you're doing the kingdom's purposes better than poking fun at vaccines, liberals, and pronouns all at once. So Mr. Jim Swift has no sense of humor. That's what I'm getting so far. Are we all in agreement on that? I think Jim Swift has no sense of humor. Now, it'd be one thing if the Bee were just trying to make a couple bucks with irreverent merch, but Dillon and the new team seem to believe in vaccine trutherism. Oh, okay. Here's a piece of cutting wit from June 30. Headline, Delta variant found to be twice as virulent and blah, 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 whatever. Who cares at this point? Oh no, another satire headline. How dare they? Scientists now warn that the COVID-19 Delta variant is like more contagious and also like other stuff about it. Some of them have brought up masks again. I'm sure you're wrapped with attention about all this. So yes, already the first paragraph is clearly satire. It's really concerning, said some scientist named, I don't know. Who cares what his name is? Anyway, he went on for a while, and it all boiled down to it's still the coronavirus. But now you're totally going to catch it for real this time. They are super double serious. So why is this satire? Because you, even if you're on the left, or in the center, or on the right, doesn't matter who you are, you're tired of the pandemic. You're sick and tired of the pandemic. You're sick of hearing 50 different things about the pandemic, and then a week later, 50 completely opposite and opposing things about the pandemic the next week from the same sources. It's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. I'm tired of it. You're tired of it. We're all tired of it. So some writer at the Babylon Bee wrote some satire about it, saying, we're all tired of it, and let's make some fun about how tired of it we all are. So if you're like one of those Karens who love to worrying about this sort of thing, now you have new reasons for that while everyone else goes back to normal. You can yell at people, you have to be more concerned about the Delta variant. The Delta variant. And everyone can just kind of nod at you and then ignore you as usual. That's actually pretty funny. Anyway, they say the vaccines are still effective against it, so I don't even know why we're still talking about this. Seen any good TV shows lately? Right. It kind of sums up the way a lot of us feel. Well, maybe this is fun. So this is Mr. Oh, I forgot his name already because he's that important to me. Mr. Jim Swift. He said, maybe this is funny, but it doesn't seem like it. More to the point, it doesn't even seem like it's trying to be funny. Is it trying to be serious? It's not the churchy onion so much as the low-rent John Oliver. It's trying to make a point. I'm sorry. I'm actually laughing. Except that in this case, the point is that you, the vaccine skeptical audience, are a good person, and all the hysterics around you are crazy Karens. And what could possibly go wrong? Just in case you care. Oh, here we go. So he's writing an article about a satire site. Now he's going to hit us with some real news. Just in case you care, June 30 is almost the precise date at which the fourth wave, comprised of the COVID Delta variant, boy, say that 5 times real fast, began showing up in testing. Yes. This is ridiculous, by the way. So the numbers that they're talking about here, going up and crazy, and like the Delta variant stuff, yeah. Less than 30% by mid-year had the vaccine. So yes, the numbers that were being reported were going to climb. Just saying. That's just anyway. Mind you, this isn't to say that the Babylon Bee is to blame for the fourth wave. Oh no, you wouldn't say that. Merely that at a moment where responsible people were warning everyone that there was trouble ahead, the Bee was there to comfort their audience, poking fun at all the ninnies worrying about the mass death of their friends and neighbors. They are super double serious. The mass death. So I know of people who died from coronavirus. Of people. I didn't know them personally. But I knew of people that died from the coronavirus. The first wave. I've not known anybody who's died from the second. In Texas, we've had a lot of numbers, but not a lot of deaths. Same goes with most every place where this has been happening, because most of us now are vaccinated. And so even though we are still getting this weird Delta variant, we're not dying from it. And we weren't really dying from it in the first place. But we're definitely, even less of a chance of dying from it now that we're all, for the most part, vaccinated. And none of this, by the way, talks about the most recent, very well reviewed, peer-reviewed study from Israel that states that, vaccines are all well and good, but natural immunity is 9 times more potent. Yeah. So I would actually, we had a little bit of a scare in our household where we thought my wife and my son may have contracted it. They tested negative, but I was secretly hoping that they had contracted it, which means the whole house would have gotten it. And then not only am I vaccinated, but I also have 9 times, the immunity than the vaccine could ever give me. So neither here nor there. It doesn't make sense except as lib owning. And a few weeks ago, Dylan said so explicitly. Here is where the crux is. So many people, and I've been guilty of this in the past. A lot of people cannot separate the artist from, and the art from the man or the woman. We see this a lot with Hollywood, right? Sean Penn comes to mind. I think he's an astounding actor for the most part, but pretty astounding sometimes. And he's also about as far left as you can go without dying, basically. And I, for a long time, struggled with that. But then I found, I can separate the two. He can be a disgusting human being and still be an amazing artist. Right? So I think that's what we're getting into here with this article. Because here's the proof's in the pudding. It doesn't make sense except as lib owning. And a few weeks ago, Dylan said so explicitly. Here's Dylan suggesting that Lindenwood University economics professor Howard J. Wall should seek therapy for criticizing his shirt, which he advertises as lib repellent. Here we go. So Howard Wall said, unless one has health reasons that make vaccines risky, this shirt identifies the wearer as a nut and or a fool. Don't be an idiot. Oh, so he was posting this shirt. I identify as vaccinated. Which is, it's a funny shirt. I'm not going to spend $26 for it, but Seth Dillon, again, the owner of the Babylon Bee, said, unless one has health reasons that make COVID risky, the vaccine is unnecessary. COVID is not a health risk for the young and healthy, especially those like me who have already had it. If you're irrationally afraid of it, vaccinate yourself. Or see a therapist. So the first part, yeah, you feel like you're at risk, go get vaccinated. This isn't hard. This isn't hard. This is a choice. Now, he did kind of rub it in a little bit with go or see a therapist. But to be quite honest, if you are this upset and this fearful over a virus that, the vast majority of people survive, you might want to see a therapist because you've got some irrational fear going on. Dylan has a lot of views on vaccines, which you can read for yourself, but this one stood out to me. Here we go. Can't separate the art from the art from the artist, from the human being. Kids don't need a COVID vaccine. Healthy young adults don't need it either. Where's the falsity in that statement? By the way, Twitter had made it apparent that they need to see the latest COVID-19 information on Twitter. Remember that they're the arbiters of what is information and what isn't, what's true, what's not. And it's not just Dylan. Here's B editor-in-chief Kyle Mann getting in on the action. Folks, as a Christian, I strongly encourage you to get vaccinated against COVID-19. Just kidding. You're an adult. Make your own decisions. What's wrong with this statement? Anybody want to point it out to me? Am I just dense? Am I not getting it? Oh, that was not a one-off. What? Telling people that they're adults and can make their own decisions wasn't just a one-off? Oh boy, what else? What other horrible things did he do? Ah, yes, those Cubans were shouting "Libertad," which is roughly translated, "Give us more COVID-19 vaccines." because the original, I covered this when this was going on back in July. When the protests in Cuba first started out, the media had this weird notion that is because of COVID vaccines, that they couldn't get COVID vaccines. And that's what the headline says. Protests take place across Cuba as the country faces shortages of COVID-19 vaccines and basic needs. Ah, yes, those Cubans were shouting Libertad, which is roughly translated, give us more COVID-19. He's making fun of the media here, not making fun of COVID or the vaccines. He's making fun of the media because the media is making up shit. The Cubans in general want freedom. Regardless of COVID or whatever else is going on in the world, they want freedom. That's what Libertad means. Oh, here's another example of Kyle Mann. Left, why do you want people to die? Right, I don't. It's just I don't think vaccine and mask mandates are constitutional or work as well as... And then, left, why do you want people to die? So I've actually had this type of exact conversation with people where you can't basically get a word in edgewise without saying, you want people to die, you white supremacists. The difference between scripture and COVID vaccines is that one is a fairy tale clung to by brainwashed zealots while the other is inspired by the word of God. That's funny. Look at the stupid libtards. We have owned them with our razor shop tired of Albies will belong to us. What's this guy's name again? Jim Swift. I'm going to have to avoid his work. Anyway, Jim Swift he thinks he's being really witty here. In a way, the progress of the Babylon Bee mirrors what has happened to a lot of American Christian organizations over the last few years, both Protestants and denizens of the one true church. The Christian Post became Breitbart for believers. What? Liberty University became the MAGA Strayer University. What? First Things became Theocracy Monthly, and the Babylon Bee turned into the Federalist Humor Vertical. As a wise man once said, everything Trump touches dies. Conserving conservatism. I've never seen, except for some of the mainstream media attacks, so much disdain for satire in my entire life. Even on the right, as some of us are, just sticks in the mud, big old poles up our butts. Even those people have never had such disdain for satire as I see here. The problem is that it's the wrong satire. If it were a left-leaning organization writing similar articles, nobody would raise a stink about it at all because it's satire. But if it's right-leaning, no, we can't have that. That's wrong think. It's wrong satirical think. And we can't have any of that. And that's just how I feel about it. I've got to click again because I don't have buttons. I apologize. I can't remember where I put everything. There we go. I'm back full screen. So that is how my shows are going to go. I'm going to take these articles and I'm going to expand on them. I'm going to take these posts, I'm going to expand on them and give you my colored view of the world while doing it. I'm not going to hold anything back. As you can tell, I did not tonight. Well, I did a little. I held back a little. I didn't use as many curse words as I really wanted to, but yeah, it's good to get that out of my system this late at night before I go to bed. I'm going to crash I'm going to sleep like a baby at night. So I really appreciate the viewers that I got tonight. If you're watching this on replay, come check me out. Please, by all means, and I've got to click a button again, damn it, because I don't have the appropriate technology in place, but please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to click the bell when I go live. You will get notified when I go live or when I start putting up new content for recorded video. I plan on doing that as well. I've got a lot of really fun ideas for recorded video that I'm going to be working on soon. So I'm hoping to get that rolling here in the coming weeks. But until then, try to just be on the lookout for me at 9 o'clock at night and if I'm going to be going live, you'll get that notification. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been real. And as Kevin says, welcome back. Glad you're making content again, even if we hardly agree. Kevin, I think we agree more than you let on. I think you're in the closet. I really do. I really do, KMR. I think you're in the closet. I get it. You hang out with a bunch of theater people, and that colors your vision a little bit, but I think we're on the same page on a lot of things. And thank you, Derek. Thank you for coming, hanging out, and supporting me. Thank you, Tom, who stopped in for a little while. Really appreciate that, Tom. And I hope to catch you next time. I'm going to, just so everybody knows, I'm going to go ahead and lay out a couple of ideas here before I end the show. I've been tossing around ideas of having a panel show, and I think I'm going to integrate that somehow into this channel. Yes, lately we've agreed a bit. So I'm going to start adding some more panel type of stuff where I'm going to bring people on the show with me, and we're going to discuss some of these same things. So I've had a sidebar discussion with David Foster. I haven't reached out to Alex McDonald yet, but I want to get him on. I would love to have you, Grimskull, Kevin, if you can stay up this late on a regular basis. I'd love to get you on a panel. I don't care what your political leanings are. I would just love to have you come on and talk about these issues with me. I think it'd be great fun. We can have a good time with it. We can have some laughs. We can get it at each other's throats. Just kidding. I'm not going to get angry with you because that's not cool. That's not cool, man. But anyways, I am off. I am taking off. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate your support. And hey, I will see you hopefully tomorrow. If not, you will see me sometime soon. And now I can't click on the right thing. So this is going to be my new interview layout. Like it? Pretty cool? Huh? No? Too bad. All right. Now I'm really saying goodbye. Bye.